Good morning, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Fear the Weight podcast with me, your TinyTitan host. We are in the cupboard of dreams again. I always feel like Harry Potter, but I just don't think I'm as tall as him. So maybe there's something wrong going on with that. In the hot seat today, I have a very cool guest. I had his missus, not quite his missus just yet, but fiance, nearly there. When are you getting married? Have you got a date yet?
It's supposed to be December, but I doubt it.
Well, okay, so nearly, well, your fiance anyway. So I had Meg Sylvester on last time. Today I have the other half, Mr. Kuba. I'm not going to insult you with trying to say your last name because, like you said yourself, everybody says it wrong, just like people say my name wrong. So
just go with the first name.
Exactly. Just go with the first name, Kuba. As you can see here, Kuba has got the worst kind of lockdown style haircut, just as bad as mine. But I think he's managing it fairly well. Mine's still a bit fluffy. I look a bit more like
I think it's manageable.
But there we are. Maybe I should be donning a Kuba hairstyle realistically and just kind of like give over to all of the hairdressing type skills.
Well, I think you should train the hubby up.
How are you doing anyway? How are you doing in lockdown?
I'm not bad. I think, do you know what? I think this one, just like everyone else, I've definitely found it's been a little bit more annoying. It's definitely took its toll more than the other ones. I think the first one was all like, right, we're all in good spirit. Let's like get through it together. But I think this one's been definitely more of a drag. Like, end of the day, we all like to have our own routines. We all like to do all these different little things that you know. And we all like to socialize. Like we're not meant to be isolated. Like as human beings, I don't think we are meant to be just isolated and just be in one place. Like that is not, it's against nature. Like it is totally against what we're all about as human beings. So for me, it's definitely not been, it's been all right, you know, much better than most people. I'm gonna admit that one, but I think this one has hit everyone a lot harder, to be honest. So let's fingers crossed it don't happen again.
Hope not. I mean, I think it's like you said, for the first thing, it was almost a novelty. It was almost a kind of like scared excitement type of thing. Yeah. And we were all kind of coming around as comrades and saying like, yeah, we will get through it together. And then the government just kind of went, do you know what? We'll get through it together, but we'll implement tier systems. So but we're not all in the same boat. So that kind of pissed us off.
It's almost like we've been grounded for all that time. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I suppose it does, like you said, it kind of brings people together by saying, yeah, we're all bored, we're all pissed off, we are all in the same boat. So do you know what? We're going to have to just try and get through it in the best way possible that we can do.
I think as much as it brought people together, I think it created a divide in same breath.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it's, you know, depends. I think it has brought people together in same goals, but I think more in their political views and just views in general. I think it's definitely split a lot of people up, in my opinion.
For sure. No, I can see that one as well. I just don't like looking at politics anymore, or politicians for that matter.
Just don't watch TV. That's your biggest enemy.
Turn it off. Don't make it part of your routine. Anyway, I'm not going to, again, insult you by saying, just introduce us. Let us know who you are, because I think by now everybody knows who you are. But just give us a little bit of a brief rundown for the strongmen in my repertoire who listens, who don't particularly pay attention to bodybuilding. So who are you?
So, name's Kuba, obviously. I've been a bodybuilder for quite some time. So I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a coach and a gym owner. So that's pretty much like the overview. That's what I do. That's what life revolves around, and that's what I've done for a long time now. So yeah, that's pretty much as it gets and as fun as it gets. But yeah, for the powerlifters, they'll actually know the gym. That if they're a powerlifter, they'll know my gym. Yeah, it was actually initially Iron Athlete. So we actually used to host powerlifting comps in there as well. So we are looking to get that back once things start to get normal again. And we actually host BPU qualifiers. We still do them as well. Andy Bolton yearly comp, Andy Bolton deadlift challenge. So that all kind of goes down at my place. So if you're a powerlifter, you need to get down. You'll love it.
We'll plug that one closer to the time. I had a couple of people who actually competed in the Andy Bolton deadlift challenge. Obviously not this year, but or last year, but the one before. So it was a good event actually. I like Andy. He's a cool guy. Right. So I suppose the reason as to why I brought you on here today is I suppose it really does correlate quite well with the lockdown, because it's like you were saying, we've been grounded for such a long time. A lot of people have had extended off seasons.
Yep.
You know, we were obviously looking at things like prep. People did manage to have some competitions in the last year by going abroad and having some really segregated things. So just them and the judges in the place wasn't quite the same. But in terms of people having an extended off season, a lot of us had to just transition back into an off season. So this was the reason as to why we thought it would be quite good, because there's a lot of podcasts out there about prep and how to optimally approach it. But I want to look at an optimal approach to an off season. And the reason as to why some people get it so wrong, some people are ill, some people have poor digestions. So let's get it from your perspective. Realistically, how would you set up an optimal off season? And let's take it from someone who started prep and then all of a sudden their show was cancelled, because it's all our own personal experience at this point.
So I wouldn't stop prep. I would continue and get in a reasonable condition. I wouldn't go down to true contest shape, but I would get in probably condition that would put me at around 8 to 10 weeks out. In my opinion, that kind of condition is the most optimal to start a long constructive off season. Mm-hmm. The leaner you are to a degree, because you don't want to get to a point where you will have to regain your body's natural functions and hormone balance. You want to get to a point where you still feel quite comfortable, but the diet fatigue hasn't kicked in. Because if you get to a point where diet fatigue has kicked in, the first 4 to 5 weeks, it's pretty much going to be spent getting your body fat back up and shaking the diet fatigue off and getting your energy levels back that are optimal. And that is pretty much what first 5 weeks of rebound actually does. I don't truly believe that you grow any muscle tissue during that time. If anything, you just get fuller and you just acquire body fat to be in the most optimal position. So for me, 8 to 10 weeks out shape, that's still a lot leaner than I would want someone to come down during a mini cut. But arguably, I think that is a very good position, and it's a great position to go into a longer off season. So if you have started a prep, I wouldn't just call it quits. I would definitely go through with it, get to that position where you're hungry, your food is fairly lower, but your performance hasn't really taken a dive yet. So I would pretty much take it as far as I can without seeing diminishing returns in performance. And then I would definitely consider reverse dieting. So it wouldn't really be all you can eat buffet. It would be titrating the food back up very slowly and making sure that your food choices and the increments are based around what you are able to digest. You can only eat what you can digest. And that has always resonated with me quite heavily. And that has kind of changed and improved over the last couple of years, especially as I've tried different methods to an off-season, different approaches. I've pretty much done every single approach to an off-season you can possibly think of, and the prep. So for me, apart from keto, I'd never do keto.
Just throwing that in there.
You can do keto if you just want to get small. But what that brings me back to is the most optimal, obviously, approach for an off-season, which is obviously what you kind of want to know. And what I definitely think is the most optimal approach to an off-season. So you should always base your diet around the foods that you are able to digest well, that cause no bloat and doesn't cause issues where you are going to toilet more frequently than not. I've seen this with many guys before where they started working with me and they thought it was normal going to the toilet 5-6 times a day. I actually lowered their food intake, changed some food sources, and they actually gained weight.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising. So, how can anybody think it's normal to go to the toilet 5-6 times a day?
They thought that was fine. I was like, dude, that's like, when I have diarrhea, I go 6 times. Do you know what I mean?
When I have food poisoning, I go 6 times a day.
It makes no sense. Like, even now, peak of my off season, max I will go is 3 times in a day, like 2 to 3 times, that's maximum. Anything more than that, and you know that your body is under stress. And what people misconstrued and don't understand is your gut tells you everything. So your stomach tells you when you're tired. Your stomach tells you when you need to back off. And your stomach tells you when you're good. Like when your appetite is flying, like you know your energy is there. You know you're ready to go. When your appetite starts to dip, when you start seeing a decline in your digestion, you know something is wrong. Like, people really undervalue what your gut actually tells you. Your stomach communicates with you in so many ways. And it's so important that we look after that in off season. And it's not much more of a case of using probiotics and digestive enzymes. No, that should be at the back end of what we do. The first process is managing your food, managing your meal timing, managing your stress levels, making sure that you are chewing your food properly, and making sure that you are eating in a nice, calm, relaxed environment. All these little attributes and all these little variables really help with digestion and protect your appetite in a way. So the ability to eat is everything in off season. If you take your drugs past a certain level, you won't be able to eat. If you take your training past a certain level, you won't be able to eat. So all these little things are counterproductive in many cases. So follow your gut instinct. Follow it, as cheesy it's going to sound like, follow your gut instincts in a way. But your gut is actually not instinct. It's like literally telling you you're overdoing it, you need to chill, or you're on track, keep fucking going. So the best analogy I always give for this as well is this. If you set a bonfire up, right? And if you had a little fire going and you kept throwing tiny little logs of wood at it, what would happen? It would grow.
To burn out.
It would grow. If you kept throwing little logs at it, it would just get bigger and bigger.
Sorry, my apologies.
If you have a bonfire and you throw a massive tree on it, massive log, it'll just go off.
Yeah.
And that is the same with your off-season approach. If you just throw massive logs at your fire, it's going to go off. If you keep feeding it a little bit of wood at a time, tiny bits, tiny small logs, the logs that it can handle and kind of ignite it, because what happens when you've got a fire and you pour a little log on it, it actually gets bigger. So if you throw a big one on it, it goes down. So it's the same thing when it comes to feeding, when it comes to digestion. You should never be at a point where you are bloated uncontrollably. Like, don't get me wrong, peak of off season, before you need to pull back, you will get to a point where it's not comfortable. It's not. But it should never be to the point where you look like you're 10 months pregnant. It should never be to a point where you feel sick all day. If you feel sick all day, if you go to the toilet all the time, if you're not really getting a pump in the gym, you're just simply eating too much. If you are hungry, if your digestion's good, if you have regular toilet to the trips at pretty much same time every day, you know, like, things are optimal. You know, things are in a good place. And especially if you're not getting bloated and there's no issues, like, you know, you're out on track. So I think people really undervalue what your stomach tells you, and people rush more often than not. People just want things now, and they don't necessarily look at the long game. You need to be looking at the next plan over 6 months. Like, you need to be thinking about yourself. It's not about what I'm going to grow in the next month. It's about what I'm going to do to sustain constant progression and constant growth over the next 6 months. For me, that is key. For me, that's essential. That is something that you need to consider when you're moving into an off season. Like, and if you don't, it's a very, very short and a very, very, very quick recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
I think this is one of the biggest things that people do actually fail to understand realistically, because this is what separates bodybuilding from other strength performance sports. So powerlifters can have a shorter off season, for example, because realistically, they don't really care what they look like. All they've got to do is get more base strength, and you can accumulate base strength in a shorter time period than you can accumulate bigger muscles. So people forget that muscle growth is a long, arduous, and fairly boring and slow process. Even though I don't particularly find it boring, because I love training. Just like yourself, you like getting in every single day and you enjoy the process of that slow, arduous process of growing muscle. But I have found a lot of the time, especially with bikini athletes, they like to have just a very, very quick 4-5 month off season and then go straight back into a diet again. What do you see that quite a lot with bikini athletes more so, or do you see it more so with like some big bodybuilders? What's your experience?
It's not really with bikini athletes. I think it all depends on the person.
Yeah.
If someone really does it for basically just wanting to participate, and someone does it with no real goal long term, they're not going to value a longer off season. If somebody wants to win, if somebody actually wants to be successful in this sport, they don't care if they need to sit out a year. They don't care if it's going to take 2-3 years. Like when someone comes to me and says, right, I just want a contest prep, I'll do whatever it takes, I'm going to turn pro next year, I won't work with them, because it will straight away, it rings alarm bells, and I know what kind of person they are. They're the person that will likely just use anything they can, not necessarily put the effort into the training and nutrition and recovery, and just think it's doable through usage of whatever. And it's almost like a short-term fix and short-term gratification. When it comes to eating as well, I think many people forget bodybuilding and powerlifting, they are both performance sports. And this is where a lot of powerlifters fail, in my opinion, through lack of nutrition. The best powerlifters in the world, their nutrition strategy is very similar to ours.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So this is where I believe most powerlifters go wrong. They just eat whatever. They don't really focus on nutrition. They just focus on eating a ton of calories. But unfortunately, guys, a calorie isn't a calorie. Like, if you are eating for performance and to be able to perform optimally, you need to have a nutritional strategy. If you don't, good luck to you trying to reach your true potential. Let me tell you that now. It's not going to happen. What did Fourie do to actually be where he is and have a true change in his performance? He employed a nutritionist.
Yeah.
That was the biggest change in Fourie's game. He's gone from being okay to pulling 500 kilo like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's simply been done through dieting, getting leaner, and then rebuilding back up. That's exactly what he did.
Exactly. And that deadlift as well, obviously he broke the record. It was 501 that he just took from Eddie. And I have to say, it moved like butter, because you saw him doing triples with like 510 or something.
There was 520 there.
Oh yeah. Oh, easy. Absolutely easy.
There was 520 there.
And you have to admit,
do you know what? The 500 kilo nearly killed Eddie. And
totally.
Fourie looked fresh.
Yeah. But if you compare the two, Eddie was big, like massive.
Yeah. Thing is, Eddie is savage. He's a true athlete. So with Eddie, like, he doesn't have the same predisposition as Fourie has. Like, Fourie is built for this game. He's built to be a strongman. Eddie, I don't think he truly is. Eddie's was more sheer stubbornness and sheer work ethic. Whereas with Fourie, you can see, like, he's got a nutritionist.
Yeah.
He upped his game, and he actually employed Sebastian Oreb, which is one of the best powerlifting coaches in the world. And there we go, working with both Stanford and Sebastian, making sure nutrition's on point, programming's on point, and it's pulling 500 kilo like it's nothing, because it looks so smooth. So I think that's proof in the pudding. And anyone listening to this, I think that should be a bit of an eye-opener to you. Like, if you're not taking care of your nutrition and training, which both are equally as important to me, it's not 80% nutrition, 20% training. It's not. It's 50-50. Both are just equal as important. Without the training, there's no stimulus. Without the nutrition, there's no recovery. So if one lacks, other one don't work. There's not just one. So this should definitely be a bit of an eye-opener for people and a consideration to move forward. If you want to reach your true potential, you need to be looking at things deeper, and you need to be truly thinking about, what is it I'm missing? Like, what is it I can do to be better?
Absolutely. I mean, I coach some of the strongest people. I mean, I'm not going to say strongest people in the world. However, I've got clients that are in World's Strongest Man, Women's Strongest Man, that kind of thing. And it was only since we really optimized their nutritional strategy, because I have to admit, just exactly like you were saying there, when I analyze their food diary of what they're already eating, I get them to write down everything that they eat and drink for 4 days, including their routine, when they eat it, etc., etc. And when you analyze it, it's like, holy crap. And then you ask them all the questions, how many times you go to the toilet and blah, 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 and all the rest of it. It's unbelievable. And then once we actually optimize things, the majority of people, I'll just take an example of somebody who messaged me this morning just to kind of give them their optimal. They started with me 3 weeks ago at 120 kilos. They weighed in this morning at 111.2, and that was 3 weeks work. And obviously you can imagine a lot of that is sheer inflammation. A lot of it is
water. And water.
Absolutely. A lot of it is, you know, it's not like we're going to kid each other and say, oh, yeah, it's all body fat. No, it's not. It isn't. But all of a sudden, they're moving better. They're cleaning logs better. Their push press is faster and more explosive, and it's more powerful. So the training element was no issue whatsoever, but it was the nutrition that was really, really letting them down. So getting onto that, and you mentioned bloat and rebound quite a lot. What do you... And obviously like optimal food choices and things, which is what I've just alluded to there. So you said that you've done everything in the book. In your past off seasons, were you one of these guys who literally just looked at food as food and just ate things like tubs of ice cream and pizzas and things like that?
No, I was never like that, but I used to go overboard with my cheat meals. That's about it. But I was never a guy that just ate crap. I was actually the opposite at first. At first, I was the guy that literally wouldn't eat anything apart from just plain chicken and fucking rice. Whereas I definitely disagree with that, because your diet should be very balanced. Like maximum in your day, you should be eating like 1 to 2 meals that are the same.
Yeah.
And all your other meals really should be different, with different food sources, different additives, etc. That are all wholesome foods like fruits, veg, different carb sources. As you know, like look at your diet. You've got pretty much every single meal is different.
Yeah.
So that should be your nutritional strategy based around the foods that are still very high quality. For me, like the worst thing I'll probably use is like probably a bagel or something. That's probably the worst thing I'll use. So the reason why this has changed so much is because I honestly believe that the nutrition that you actually have really does have a value, and it really does matter. A calorie, and depending what calorie you eat, really does matter. And do you know what? The first person that you always used to preach it was always Dorian. Like everyone mentions Dorian, but Dorian actually he changed the game for food and training, because he was so militant with it. And there was a quote that he once said, I can't remember to be exact, but he basically explained that I'm eating 5,000 calories right now, but my 5,000 calories is far more effective than your 5,000 calories. And that is so true. Like you could be eating 5,000 calories worth of crap and your performance would be through the floor. Whereas if you are strategic about what you eat, you are careful about your food sources and use the most quality food sources, then you know it's going to be big. There's going to be a big difference in the way you perform and how you actually move and what you're actually capable of digesting as well. In my opinion, the more ingredients a certain food has, the worse your body will digest it.
Yeah.
This is why, like, I know this is going to sound a little bit harsh, but I have never, ever met a single vegan that has perfect digestion. That's
interesting. Elaborate more on that. Have you got vegan clients at the moment?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about the optimal digestion.
Do you know what? I respect the choices because one of them, it works extremely hard. My client Lee, but he always tends to have a bit of digestive issues, and do you know what? He accepts that. He knows that, but he's still willing to stick to the cause, which I respect massively. But it's a fact. A piece of beef just has beef.
Yeah.
What does actual like tofu contain?
Oh, I don't like tofu.
what does the fake meat contain that they actually make now? There's
a lot of words that a lot of people can't say.
There's about 60 different ingredients.
Yeah.
What's going to digest better?
Yeah, probably just animal meat.
Yeah. So that's always my kind of concern. But you know what? Like I do have a lot of respect for him because he works super hard, and you know what? He makes no excuses. He just gets on with it. So, and you know what? He'll accept this because we've spoke about it. So it's nothing new. Like I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I'm not talking behind his back. Like he knows it. So there's a big difference when it comes to obviously nutrition strategies. And do you know what? Everyone's got different methods, and I respect that. That's fine. But I tend to work off not just studies. I tend to work off real life experience and working with individuals. Like I've worked with that many people now, that many different people that function differently and have different needs. Like you see a pattern, and you see a pattern that works pretty well. So you can pretty much guess through people's lifestyle choices, through how they are, and within the first 2 to 3 weeks of working together, of how their body actually reacts. And then you know what's going to work for them well and what isn't. So you tend to avoid the things that aren't going to work well, and you tend to stick to the things that are going to work well. So it's pretty much common sense when it comes to this game. If you are bloated, if you cannot do certain tasks and movements, if your mobility is poor, if you are at the point where you're not even that heavily muscled and you can't pose, like if you're at that point, in my opinion, something wrong and something needs addressing. Because I'm not being funny. If Ronnie Coleman, peak of off season at 300 pounds, if he can hit every single shot, if he can hit an ab and thigh, if he can hit a side tricep, I'm not being funny, but you don't have the same amount of muscle as Ronnie Coleman. So getting into poses and moving about, being mobile should not be a problem at any point.
No, not at all. Let's also talk about that in terms of like your gut control. So I'm a big fan of TVA work. I do a lot of vacuums. I know that you started putting in some vacuums at the same time as well because of your front shot and bringing in that midsection. Gone are the days, realistically, where you had that big bodybuilder on top with like the tortoise shell belly. Because we want to have that nice solid midsection. If you're bloated, like you, for example, if you've ever had a bloated day, because I know that you're doing a little bit of like a devolume food phase at the moment to just reduce some fatigue.
I've just finished that actually because I only did it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks was enough to give my body a bit of a break. Cool. And just get me back in a position where I am able to stomach food well and get my appetite back up. So what I'll do, I'll get a checking shot from this morning, from a front shot. And that's me back eating 6,000 calories a day.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So you see how that midsection is beautifully controlled at that point. It's got a nice V-taper. Guys, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I'll get the photo from Kuba and then actually put that up and overlay it in certain things. See, these shots, I mean, you can see here that you do practice mobility and you do practice everything that you should be doing in order to recover because you can easily get into certain poses.
Let me get my last off season at the same weight. Go on, carry on. Sorry, let me just get
my
last.
You're right.
Good comparison. This.
I want that comparison shot. I'll put that up. But yeah, when you get yourself into a bloated position, do you feel like you can actually vacuum properly and really pull up all of those muscles into the back of your spine?
Absolutely not. I've never really been able to vacuum properly anyway, but I think this year I'll be able to do it. But that's simply out of being lazy and not really valuing the control, the midsection control work. So I think I will be able to do that now, but that's now. Like I'll be able to do that moving forward with no issues, you know. And I think every bodybuilder should be able to do it. And the reason why they don't is just being lazy. And I think it's just lack of training your abdominals and lack of TVA work. And you know what? I used to be that guy. So, you know, you learn from your mistakes. And I think it's always a valuable lesson that you need to take on board. If you are not able to hold certain shots, if you are not able to keep a good gut control, it's not just going to be counterproductive in your actual posing, but it's going to be counterproductive in your training. You think about it. How are you meant to brace? How are you meant to brace properly and go through a lift without your lift breaking down if you have zero ab control? Tell me, how are you meant to do it? You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it with precision. You're not going to be able to hold it well. And the likelihood of you being able to take your set to total failure is very slim, because what's going to give away? What's going to give away first? Your core's going to give away first, especially if you're doing a movement like an RDL or a stiff leg deadlift. Like, it's absolutely no way you will be able to do it if you cannot control your midsection. It's just not going to happen. So not only it's going to affect your training now, but it's going to affect your visual appearance. And let's face it, in this sport, it's all about visual appearance. So this is from 13th of March, 2020, which is probably when I first started prep. Let me just get a picture up. Oi. I'm gonna have to. Honestly, this is so annoying. Right.
Holy shit! Wow.
And do you know what? Just save the date, 13th of March, yeah?
Yeah.
Let me get how much I actually weighed in it, because I'll have the data saved. Don't worry about that.
And this is really important as well in terms of your off season, from my opinion. I track absolutely everything on a day-to-day basis, first thing in the morning before I actually do anything realistically. Obviously, I get through my routine, my weigh-ins, my cardio, blah, blah, blah. But then I'll actually write down all of my data. So how much I weighed to, how I felt that day and blah, 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 and all the rest of it. So just like you were saying there, I've got the data saved from the 13th of March, 2020. And that was
I found even better.
Yeah.
I was 118 kilo, which is on that picture I've just showed you.
Yeah.
I was 259.6 pounds.
Right.
This morning, I was 263.
Yeah. Huge difference in terms of composition.
Yeah, let me just, that's going to be quite an interesting one. Let me just save that and put them both side by side. I'll send it through.
Yeah.
And you can
I'll overlay it.
I think the difference is quite apparent.
I think people need to actually do these comparisons in terms of like peak of off season one year to the peak of off season next year. I did one not so long back. Well, actually it was about 3 days ago, with one of my strong women, where we took her through phases and how she optimally increased her muscle mass and still made weight in certain competitions. Oh my God, Kuba, that's horrendous. It's actually very funny.
I look like a pork chop.
A pork chop.
What? Listen, this is exactly a year apart. 20th of March today.
Wow.
How weird
crazy.
is that? How weird is that? That's proper weird.
It is.
It
was obviously meant to be. This is where the stars aligned, and it was like, you need to come on and say, don't fear the weight, but maybe fear that kind of weight.
That is, honestly, that's proper weird. That, like, Jesus Christ.
Reminiscing. So actually, this is quite good in terms of a psychology perspective. When you look at those side by sides, what are you telling yourself now that you could have told yourself then? What's actually going through your mind when you look at yourself at that point?
What, when I was fat?
Yeah, when you were a pork chop.
That it's literally so unproductive.
Okay. And what made it unproductive?
Just carrying so much body fat and bloat. Performance just will have been terrible.
Yeah.
And in general, the way you've got to look at it is like carrying that much body fat is just no bueno. Whether you're a strength athlete, whether you are a bodybuilder, like, it's a little bit different for strength athletes. What I would normally go off is not necessarily how much body fat you carry, but your insulin sensitivity more so.
Yeah.
Because you still can be quite sensitive and hold a decent amount of body fat. But what people forget is a lot of body fat held there was visceral fat as well.
For sure, yeah.
So again, that has huge negative impact on digestion and performance. And believe me now, I felt like crap on there. Whereas right now, I feel pretty good. I'm vascular. My legs are still vascular. Like, I wake up, I'm hungry. My stomach's flat. I'm not bloated. So I think the difference is very much huge. So to say that I'm the same weight on there, and that's pretty much when I started prep, versus where I am now, when I'm starting prep in like 10 weeks' time, I think you're in a much better place. So there should be a good few pounds of muscle on top of that. And not to forget as well, I will lose far less muscle coming down, knowing that I'm in already much better shape and much better condition. So that's definitely a consideration to make,
And were you on more assistance a year ago compared to where you are now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You had a little bit of a snigger about that point. So what was the snigger about? Do you look back on that now and just kind of think, why was I on that much?
Not really. I think, do you know what? I don't think we should ever look at it this way. I think the way we should look at it is this. You have to go through certain processes to get to where you are right now. Like, the reason why I'm where I am right now is because I've made all these mistakes.
Sure.
Like, if I haven't been there, and do you know what? Probably if I haven't done what I've done there, I'm just trying to find the cycle. If I haven't done what I've done there, I would legit not be where I am now.
Totally.
That is my honest belief. Like, that is honestly what I hand on heart believe. So, end of the day, I don't think it's more of a case of, right, it's not a negative thing. It's more, the reason why I can get away with less supplementation now is because my commitment and my accuracy and my consistency and the way I tick the boxes is far better. So back then, I was committed 100%, but
oh, you can tell.
but it still wasn't the same as I was right now.
Yeah.
So yes, I was getting all the food in. Yes, I was getting sleep in, but my sleep quality wasn't as good. My nutrition strategy wasn't as good. My training was nowhere near as good. So all these little things definitely contributed to things just not being optimal. I'll find the cycle in a bit because I'm gonna have to go through a ton of notes to find it. But it's definitely the one. Like it's all a big lesson, and year by year I'm getting better in many things. So it's more of a natural progression. Like it's not forced,
Yeah. I mean, I do think that all of these things that we go through, it's like I did a post previously. I went through a terrible prep in 2014, which I've shown you pictures of previously, where I was literally emaciated. It destroyed my hormones to the point where I lost my periods and never regained them, to the point where I've had to go on HRT and everything else like that recently. But it's when people say to me, I wish you'd never gone through that experience. I said, well, actually, I did want to go through that experience. And if I had the chance to change it, I wouldn't, because it's made me much more knowledgeable and made me the coach who I am today, because I now kind of know what not to do and the signs to look out for.
It's molded you. Like this is what I'm saying. Like the reason why I can do what I do now is because I've done every mistake a human being could make when it comes to this game.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's natural progression, and I'm quite grateful for everything that's happened in past, whether that's in bodybuilding, outside of bodybuilding. I am grateful for it. And the way people, you look at life two ways. You look at life as, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened to me, or oh my God, thank you, that's happened to me, because I can learn from it, move forward, and become a better person and stronger and better through that. So, there's a geezer called Jocko on YouTube. Someone sent me a video the other day, and it's actually quite good. I'll send it to you after. And basically, it's talking about all these bad things that have happened, and after he's saying, "Yeah, good, like good. That's happened to you, like good," because I think the reason why society is the way it is right now is because everything and everyone's almost wrapped in bubble wrap, and I think that's not good. That's not good for anyone. Like, when I was brought up, and the reason why I'm this way out, because it was harsh. So I'm very fortunate to things have panned out a certain way, because I honestly believe if all that didn't happen, I wouldn't have the character I have now, in a way. So, you've got to count your blessings in many ways.
Definitely. I think the way that you actually talk to people is very direct and very honest at the same time, with an edge of empathy. And one of the reasons why, obviously, I know a fair few of your clients as well. And one of the running jokes are when Kuba starts recording a voice note. It's like, oh, holy shit, what's that for now? And it's about the feedback into their training stimulus. And it's like, I don't want to send him my RDL because he's going to record a voice note. And
but you know what? The worst thing is not sending me the RDL.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But sometimes if you're not, I mean, I say this with my clients when I give them my feedback, and they're like, oh, do you know what? It's actually demotivated me a little bit, because it means that I haven't actually done things correctly. I was like, but the thing is, if you're feeling demotivated by being told that this is the way you can optimize things, you should be really awesome and grateful in the fact that you're now in a good position to make all of these amazing gains.
I had that before, and it was a tough conversation for me to have, because for me, I don't like the positives. Like, I take nothing from it, but
Yeah.
I know that not everyone's like me. And unfortunately, some people need a little bit of, they need a little bit of stroking, you know,
Right.
they need a little bit of patting on the back. And I really don't like doing it, because for me, like, do you know what? I had it once with the training side, where someone actually stopped sending me the videos, because there was like, yeah, but I don't send them because they're going to be wrong. But it's like, how are you ever meant to learn if you're not going to send them, you know? So it was a tough conversation to have. And basically what I needed them to realize, it's for their benefit. Like, I'm not saying this to be a prick. I'm not. Like, I want you to be good. This is why I'm saying this. Like, it's the total opposite. Like, I'm saying this because I want you to be good. I'm not saying this because you're wrong. Like, you're not meant to be right. If you're right, then why are you working with me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're perfect, then you would not employ me. Like, you'd probably be doing this yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, and then another one is with a check-in. So it was literally a fucking perfect check-in. So the reply was, oh, I don't feel like you've given me enough feedback in the check-in. I'm like, I replied to it and was like, right, look at the feedback this week. It was perfect. So do you want me to go over the points that are perfect, or do you want me to focus on things that we need to work on? The whole point of a check-in for me is to focus on everything that we need to work on. If things are brilliant, like, I'll say, yeah, that's great, but I'm not going to elaborate on the greatness. I'm going to elaborate on the things that need to work and the things that we need to attack and get better for this week.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's a waste of time talking about what you've won. Like, yes, you're going to get a pat on back, and I'm going to say, mate, fucking immense feedback. Now let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because this is what needs to be addressed. We're not going to address the greatness, and we're not going to address perfection, because it was literally perfect.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of depth, and it was perfect. So I was like, yeah, mate, wicked. And because I didn't elaborate on the greatness, it came across as like, yeah, but did you not like pay attention to the good things? I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And I'm super happy about them, but they don't need addressing. So I'm not going to talk about them when there's another issue down here that we need to talk about, we need to get right.
And that's it. It's just like, it's hyper focusing on the good things. I like to do what's known as a shit sandwich. So when I have check-ins, I'll highlight a bad point and then give them a little bit of a pat on the back and then highlight the other bad point. So it's like that. There's gratification in the middle, isn't it? That they have a little bit of both of the best worlds.
Sometimes they just need the barrel, the full barrel.
Yeah. Sometimes it's needed, isn't it?
Sometimes it's just shit. It's just a shit sandwich with a lot more shit in the middle.
That's it, exactly. It's more like a Warburton's thin. And then, like, you know, a tower burger in the middle of it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I think we all need some tough love. And for me, I get nothing from someone saying, yeah, that was good. Like, I'd rather just somebody say nothing.
Yeah.
Because, like, and do you know what? This is different because this is me. A lot of other people work differently. A lot of other people, they need elevation, you know, they need that push, they need that motivation. But like, for me, I don't need any more motivation. Like, I need to know what's going to make me better. So leave out the good stuff, because that's irrelevant. Like, that's good. So that means, like, that's ticked off. If that's ticked off, let's work on what isn't ticked off and what needs to be better, what we need to address, what we need to do to get better. And you know what? That's what motivates me. That's what motivates me, like, knowing, right, this is what I can do to get better. This is what I need to do to be here, not here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
But I think a lot of people, they take it the wrong way because of the environment they're necessarily used to. And that's very individual. And for me, if you can mold someone to embrace it and embrace the kind of bad points and have an outlook on it where the bad points would motivate them, that is when you're going to have someone that's going to really get there, you know?
Absolutely. That's it. It's focusing on it's like trying to focus on all of the nice food you're going to have post prep or post show. The more you focus on that, the less you focus on ticking off your every single day pass to the best of your ability.
Oh yeah. Like I've got a client, she's called Carolina, and do you know what? She's a total machine. Like, honestly, she is a machine. Like every single day is perfect. Sleeps ridiculous. Like her routine is literally to the button.
Yeah.
Training's to the button. And honestly, her feedback is like 30 seconds long.
Nice.
Because it's like
flawless.
It's like, right, wicked. Another perfect week. Let's just push this. Let's do that. Let's do this. And let's see how this week goes. Because literally, you read it and you're like, speech, like there's literally nothing to say apart from like, fuck me, yes. Another week. Another week that's literally been done with like the perfect adherence, you know. So, and she's like, she tells me, she's like, tell me what else I can do. Tell me what you want me to do better. And I'm like, fucking watching the training videos 5 times to make sure I can pick on something. Do you know what I mean? and you know what? But this is the thing, like, that's what she wants. Like, she knows what she needs to do to get to a certain level because she set a goal. Yeah. And she doesn't care how long it takes and what it takes to do to get there. And this is the kind of people that I admire. And this is the kind of people that I like to work with. And unfortunately, obviously, it's hard to come by, but I am very lucky to have that many people that have the same mindset on my team because it just, you know, it brings me up on the day. Because with her, she's like, I don't care if this takes 5 years. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes every single day for 5 years straight. And like, I have to tell her to have off-plan meals.
Yeah.
If she doesn't, if I don't tell her in off season, she'll not. And bearing in mind, like, her food is incredible. Like, she's on a lot of food and she makes her food, like, every meal's like incredible. So fair enough. But this is where the magic happens. And if people see her progress, and she's a natural athlete as well, if people see her progress, like, they won't believe it's the same person. Yeah. But like, this is what I mean when it comes to like what it actually fucking takes to be there. Like, you need to focus on things you need to work on. Like, the more you focus on how good you are, yes, it's going to stroke your ego a little bit. But if you want to be good, like, that ego needs to go and you need to think about, right, this is what I'm not necessarily good at. This is what I need to work on. Let's focus on this rather than what I'm actually good at.
Absolutely. It's a good thing to really take away, really.
Off topic.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I like it. I like the off topic things. It's always a fun thing. Now, I know you're a massively busy person, and I know that we've been talking for about an hour now, so I will love you and leave you. But the final question that I ask everybody, and I put them on the spot, but Meg might have actually given you a little bit of an insight into this. If you could choose 3 people, alive or dead, that you could have a dinner with, who would they be and why?
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler.
Oh, okay.
And Cus Kamato as well. Tyson's trainer.
Oh, okay, fine. So big boxing fan then?
A bit of both, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Why would you choose those people over, say, somebody like Dorian?
Dorian, I know what he'd say. Dorian, I know what he'd say. Like, with Dorian, you get what you're coming, but of course, it's more the mindset of like what he engraved in Tyson. Like, I think he could do that with any athlete and they would be unstoppable. Like, the only reason Tyson ever lost was because he died. If he didn't die, he would be unstoppable. So it's more how he coached his athletes and how he approached everything when it comes to the sport. And you know what? This is applicable in every avenue, in every sport as well. So I would want to quiz him about the mindset and his approach to how he goes about things, you know. I would definitely want to know that, tap into that, because it was more psychology and like what he actually told his athletes. Like, if you see any interviews with Tyson, right, he actually said like the way he made him feel he felt like he could literally kill anyone.
Yeah.
So for someone to have that kind of effect on your mind, like it's endless as to what you could do. Tyson, because of the ups and downs and lows and highs and how he's still like zero fucks given.
Yeah.
So definitely like a little bit of mindset with him. And Cutler, because to me, Cutler is definitely the greatest of all time. The way he's approached bodybuilding, his longevity in bodybuilding, how he's left bodybuilding and he's still able to train, and how successful he is in and out of bodybuilding as well. That's like goals for me, to be honest. So definitely Cutler for that as well.
I actually have a tub of pre-workout signed by Jay Cutler.
Keep that.
Yeah, I have. It went off like 7 years ago.
Don't use it. Just keep it there.
It's still sealed and everything like that. It's in a plastic bag.
That's mint.
I want it in a competition.
That's awesome. Do you know what? You should actually open it and try it now. See how strong it is.
Do you reckon? It was probably like loaded with it completely. Yeah. Shaking like buggery.
Face melting.
But it was fun. Right, listen, guys, I will put all of Kuba's contact details underneath where you can follow him, where you can follow MK Elite as well, which is the combined new company that you've got on the go with Meg. And I'll put down the fact that where you can go and visit him when the gyms are open as well, which is Ultraflex in Rotheram. Any other questions that you have for myself or for Kuba, then obviously just put them in, shoot us a DM, whatever. I'm sure that we'll obviously get back to you as and when we possibly can. And as per usual, like, share, subscribe, so I can carry on having more episodes worthwhile. Kuba, thanks very much for your time again, my man, and I shall catch up with you very soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.